Welcome, everybody. We're just letting Zoom take a moment to bring us all in. I'm John Muir Laws. If this is your first time with us, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at the Artiodactyla and how to draw them and how to understand them from the inside out. And I'm going to put into the chat a little worksheet. Sometimes when I do that, doesn't quite work the way I think it will. Oh. Hey, so see if you can open that out, and if you haven't opened that out and printed it out yet, I suggest that you do that so now. And what it is a series of skeletons of some cloven hooved friends of mine, and we will be using these to. Is the link working?
Yes.
We got a thumbs up on that. Okay, good, good, good. So we're going to give people a moment to print those out, and the. And welcome. So I'm John Muir Laws, and I am joined today by my amazing co-host. This is Avea Moore. Today we are going to be romping through their second group of ungulates. And we're glad to have you here with us. Now, these are the ungulates that that Kate Chandler can't ride. So, oh, well wait, wait. Oh, we're gonna bring in Kate here. Maybe she has been riding around on, I hope not a hippopotamus. And Spotlight.
Okay, no, but we made a pretty good effort with our grandfather's sheep. I don't know if they're in that same group. I know
they are. They are. So
Yeah,
we're
okay.
in the little posse with all the sheep today. So that's
Very long, but we certainly tried. I wish I had pictures. I would put them up here for you guys.
well, respect for that. But don't try this on a hippo.
I will not. I will not go anywhere near a hippo.
And should you become a whale rider, you let us know.
I mean, hopefully not for the whale's sake. I feel like
if you respectfully ask permission.
That goes against the Marine Mammal Protection Act, though. So.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What if the whale asked you very respectfully?
I mean, it's still illegal. So unless the whale talks to, I think it's Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
If the whale asks Fish and Wildlife respectfully and gets permission from them first, then I'm all for it. But
yeah. So if they sort of sat down and respectfully said,
I think there's a lot of things that would have to happen there, but I'm open to it. There's just a lot of whale translation and bureaucratic work that would have to happen before that. So
that's a lot of paperwork. Maybe best to stick with horses.
I know, especially because whales can't really write very well or type. Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard. That whole. And then the water gets down in the keyboard. That's not good. So thank you for being with us. So we wanted to just start by letting folks know that there are a lot of really cool opportunities for connecting with the nature journaling community and for finding mentors and people who will help you with your own practice. Avea is going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Nature Journal Land. Avea, thank you so much for being with us today.
Happy to be here. So some of the things going on in Nature Journal Land are tonight we have Tricia Nichols's Bug Nights. So you might have heard of her as Insectopia. She does these bug nights on Thursdays at 7 Pacific time and on Sunday afternoons 1 Pacific time, although she lives on the East Coast, so she goes by much later. She's a night owl, or a moth. Let's see if she's a moth.
A moth.
Fly at night. Although there are also day flyers.
And did you hear this about moths? Like a large percent of them, like 40% of them, make noises at the same frequencies that bats are using to find them, so that they're going on jamming bat. They thought it was just a few of them, but it turns out that there's a whole bunch of them, and they're doing it in different ways. So this is something that is evolved separately in different ways on different. So they're using different organs, but jamming bat radar. And some of them that are distasteful moths are going out just sort of making a signal saying, "I'm distasteful, I'm distasteful, I'm distasteful," to warn things away from them. Isn't that crazy? There's
That's
this whole
neat.
other level of the bat moth thing going on.
Where do you find out more about this? Like, I want to know more.
I'll try to dig up more on that for you.
Please do. That's really cool.
Moth countermeasures.
I love it. Nature, you're awesome.
Yeah, nature, you're awesome. You get a cookie.
So, yeah. So, wow. Okay, sorry. Okay, refocusing. If you want to impress Trisha Nichols with that information, come to Bug Nights or Bug Afternoons, and it will be fun. Then on Saturday, we have Pencil Mouse and Chill at its usual 3. On Thursdays, we have Minutes Usual 8 with me. And then on Sunday, there is this, what is this? I'm not sure if it's open for registration still, but there is a group that is meeting on Sundays where their goal is to go through Jack's book of how to do nature drawing and journaling and practice together. And so
They've just added some new spots.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So that's also on Jack's community calendar. And so you can check that out. It will take you to another website and then you'll get all of the information. And hi, Isabel. And, sorry, I just have to say hi.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Sorry to interrupt.
So that's on Sundays. I think also Marley's Nature Journal show might be continuing on Sundays. Season 3 has begun. So on Wednesdays at 6, you can see Marley's Nature Journal show on his YouTube. And then last but not least, there is a book club for those who are curious. There's a Curious Naturalist book club meeting Tuesday evenings with Jack and myself, 5 to 6. And it's currently around a particular book, not that one, this one, called Psychology of Intelligence Analysis. And so if you're curious to talk more about critical thinking, how we do science, how we analyze things, how our own biases get in the way, and just all sorts of fun brain things, come join us, please. So that is Tuesday evening at 5. And also you can get the book for free as a PDF if you go to that particular day's link. So that is open for everybody. And here is that link. And I think that's everything. So welcome to 2023. And we are really happy to have you back with us again. And I hope that you all are taking good care of yourselves and that whatever your New Year's resolutions or intentions are, that you're including self-care in there. So thank you. And I'll hand it to Jack.
Thank you for taking care of all of us, Avea. So we're delighted to be here with all of you. And we're today going to be looking at some thoughts on drawing ungulates. So we had a previous workshop on this, and so the idea of so your unguis is your nail. So if you kind of get into kind of the anatomy of fingernails, you have an unguis, and the little kind of mushy stuff underneath it is your subunguis. And on hooved mammals, the hoof is made out of your unguis. So because things are walking around on their little unguises, we call them ungulates. And the soft parts, there's if you look at an animal's hoof, there's hard parts and there's soft parts, and those are equivalent to our sort of unguis and subunguis, and they're kind of trotting around on those. It's really pretty cool. And so if you kind of look around, a bunch of them put all their weight just down on their middle toe, right? So if you imagine all these toes, if their weight is primarily on that one. Some then have 3 on the floor, and these ones not touching. Some of these are progressively lost or vestigial, and then they're just walking around on one, the middle digit. So those are the Perissodactyls, and those are things like a horse. So they are, we call these odd-toed ungulates because they are walking around on these little collections of odd toes. But if the weight primarily comes down on these two, then these are even-toed ungulates, and those are the Artiodactyls, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So things like this, that's your horse and zebra and those lovely beasties. And if we are doing this, sort of, if you've been tracking and you've seen those cool little heart-shaped deer tracks. Hold on a second. You know, you look at deer tracks in the mud, you get something like this. And if it's really deep mud, you'll see the little dew claws, like little exclamation points behind them. So what those are these 2 toes, and then these 2 toes are still there as those little vestigial nubbins that are sticking down. They're much longer on something like a warthog, but on a deer, they're kind of up like this. And so they're walking around on these 2 toes. And so that's the group which we're going to be looking at today. And hold on, I'm going to close this. So it's a really interesting group. The diversity in the Artiodactyls is a lot greater than in the Perissodactyls. So there's all these different kinds of forms. And there are 3 major land groups, 4 major land groups. You have, there are hippos. And when you get into the hippos and you start sort of studying the details of their skulls and their ear arrangement, there are features that you find in there that you also find on some of these really strange fossils that were found in estuary areas. And they're the descendants of whales. So whales end up tagging into this whole group. And then there's another group. Those are the camels, and there's pigs, and then there's bovids, and ruminants. So these critters, so if you look at the sort of the beasties that were in the Cenozoic, so no dinosaurs, emergence of mammals. At first, it's a lot of Perissodactyls, and there's a whole bunch of different kinds of Perissodactyls. And then those, as the climate started to change, those get replaced by more and more and more of these Artiodactyls. So the Artiodactyls are kind of a latecomer on the scene, and they're really, really fun. And as you get into sort of more derived, more developed Artiodactyls, something that you see is the emergence of the ruminant stomach. And this is a really, really big deal, because digesting plant material, cellulose, is hard. Digesting plant stuff is really hard to do. And so what beasties do is they have a ton of bacteria in their guts. And then you sort of originally kind of you hit it with some acid, and then you give it to the bacteria, and the bacteria munch on it, and they can absorb they can digest things that we can't. And then you can you can live off your bacteria. So bacteria are important for all of us. On the ruminant stomach, the deal is it makes this kind of complex four chamber stomach. And the first one of those is this big giant sac of bacteria. So part of the genius here is inside the ruminant's body, it has got this big zone that is perfect living conditions for bacteria. It's warm, it's wet, there's lots of food coming in. And what the ruminant can do is just kind of go bopping around and find a little place to go out, eat some grass, nom 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 nom, eats the grass, and then can go to a safer place and kind of hang out and burp up a chunk of this grass that it's already eaten, grind it with its teeth, and then send it back down to the bacteria vat, and then burp up another wad of this stuff, grind that up. So if you've ever seen a cow chewing its cud, right, it's already fed. When they eat, they go nom 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 nom. They eat really fast. They're not really spending time chewing it. The idea is eat now, chew later. And then when you chew it up, your bacteria get to go have this party on it. And after it gets all kind of broken down, you've had a chance to chew this stuff up, it then goes through the rest of the digestive tract, can get hit by acid and kind of continue on through the digestive tract. So you have in the front this big sac of bacteria. And this is just cool. It's really, really interesting. So we're going to take a look at how to draw these, and there's a lot of different body forms, and it should be a lot of fun. By this time, I'm hoping that everybody has their Artiodactyla worksheet. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use these to help us sort of see major differences between these beasties. Now I am going to let's see here. I am opening up. Uh-oh. I'll try this again. I am opening up my software for showing you. Oh, you're not. We pause for technical difficulties. More technical difficulties. Please stand by. Oh, operator error. I'm not plugged in. It always seems absurd when you call tech support on something and the first thing they ask you is your device plugged in? And because we all just assume yes. No, sometimes that's not the case. And it's not coming up. We're now plugged in. We're going to plug in again. Please beep. We're not beeping.
So would it be fair, because the first stomach has a sac of bacteria in it, would it be fair to call the ruminants foregut fermenters?
Yeah, actually, the first person who kind of sort of made me aware of that terminology was Kate. Kate, do you want to talk to? Well, I'm trying to fix up my camera here. Would you kind of talk to us a little bit about foregut and hindgut fermentation? And spotlight. Hey there, thank you for being with me. I'm gonna just turn off my camera for a moment and see if I can get this working.
Sounds good. Yeah, so basically there's two like survival and digestive strategies. The first, which you see in, well, best example is horses. Their whole thing is they want to eat stuff and digest it really fast and then be able to dump all that weight when they have to run because they're flight animals. The bovines, they tend to be a lot more heavy set. Like you'd think a cow and a horse are about the same size. A cow and a horse that are about the same height, the horse will usually weigh about half as much as the cow, even if they're eating the same amount of forage. Because that horse, I mean, they just pass things really fast. All they're doing is that whole hit the grass with stomach acid. They chew it once, gets hit with acid, and then goes on to bacteria in the back, which is a much faster fermentation system and much less thorough. So if you look at horse poop, it's basically just discolored grass. And then if you have a ruminid, their whole thing is they're either more geared to stand and fight or at least not run quite as far. So in buffalo are known for being very fast, but I don't think that they do much more than like the big sprint for their stampedes and stuff. And most times things like, you know, cattle and goats and sheep, they all require that time to like eat and digest, and they're not really made to move that fast. The other thing is that the foregut fermentation system, you're carrying a lot more food, and they generate a lot of body heat doing that. But you know, the pros are you can live off of more scant conditions because you're not digesting as fast. You're generating a lot of body heat, and I think those are the main ones. But yeah, just different strategies.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's neat to think of how your gut is set up really changes, it has an impact on your behavior. I think I've got my system ready to roll here.
Nice.
And what I also want to do in this is to take a look at how your body weight sort of changes your structure. We talked a little bit about this with the graviportal posture, but now we're going to start at kind of the other end of the spectrum. This is, hold on a second, desktop, share desktop. And here we go. I am going to hide a few elements on my desktop here, hide the video panel, hide the floating meeting controls. There we go. All right, so this little foregut fermenter that we have right here, this is a little animal called a dictic, and they are really super cute little antelope. And this little beastie, we can see it's got it has a body shape that is, you know, similar to these. You can see this is a wildebeest. So this is a little dictic here. I've got a wildebeest, and this is a Cape buffalo. So for the little dictic, what I want you to notice is, first of all, just how skinny these legs are, how skinny and bent they are. I am going to, Avea, there's been a request that we turn on closed captioning, if you're able to do that for us. So I just went on, here is, here's a whole bunch of Google images of dictycs, and I want you to notice that, that one ended up kind of not very happy. Just that they have these skinny little back legs, and they're also really bent. Look at the amount of bend in this back leg, right? So in this back leg, you've got a hip bone up here, a knee here, a heel here, and just look at how zigzagged that is. The back leg is very bent and the front legs are straight. So this is a pattern that you see across many, many mammals. Back leg bent, front leg straight. And what you've got is, let's kind of go back to that first one here. Maybe we'll go to this one here. Yeah, that's super cute, super cute. You can see you have a hip bone here. There's your hip bone. From the hip bone, you go to a knee. And so this animal's from the hip bone out here. Its knee is right out here. And then you go to a heel that's off the ground. And there's the little heel bone sticking up. And this is all your foot. These bones here fused together. Your metatarsal bones fused together if you're a little artiodactyl. So these are all fused together and zigzaggy. The more zigzag you have in it, the more when you extend your leg, the further you'll go. Because imagine this is like a loaded spring ready to bounce. But the more zigzag you have in it, the more you have to use muscles to kind of support your weight. So having a zigzag back leg works really well when you are small. So these are very small, super cute little beasties. And what I want to do is just put a few muscles on top of this. And we're going to see that we get a really good understanding of the bumps on the skin of the beastie. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give this this little one some back leg muscles. So from up here, from the point of the hip bone up here to the knee, right, you have big thigh muscles that come back and connect up into here. So imagine a big triangle that is big in the back here, and it goes to a point right up here. I'm using two colors, a blue one and a red-brown one, because then I kind of get this, I like to think of the blue one as sort of being the tendons. There's also a big muscle that is coming from back here on the hip bone. So in front of the bone, there's a muscle. There's another one in the back, and it's going to go to, there's a little tendon that goes across the front here, and it's going to fan back like this. There's actually several muscles that do this. But generally speaking, think of this as a big wedge up here in the thigh. Attached to the back of this thigh bone here, right in here, there's another muscle that starts in here and it ends right here on top of the heel. And what's neat about this one is it makes a little ball at the top, and then it goes down into a really thin, skinny tendon called the Achilles tendon. And if you feel back on your own heel, that little behind your own heel, right? This little tendon right here on the back side of your heel, that's your Achilles tendon. So your ankle comes down to here, And your Achilles tendon is coming down behind your calf and attaches to the back of the heel. So that means that the joint is actually here, and this is a little lever that sticks up. This part here is a little lever that sticks up behind the joint. The Achilles tendon attaches to that, so that when this tendon gets pulled, the foot flexes. So this is a neat little system, but what the result of this for us visually as artists is, this is one of these places where there's a neat little detail in the anatomy here. I've got a bone coming down here. I have this tendon coming down behind it here. And the result is that between those, right back here, there is a little gap. There's skin that stretches across it, but the tendon is coming down on this side. The bone comes down on this side. And so you'll see in the back leg of a lot of animals, right in that place, right here, this little divot right back there that makes a very, very strong shadow. So take a look at that divot on the dictic picture on the left. You can see it really clearly. And so you can think of this leg here as the upper part as being a big triangle that attaches to a smaller triangle that attaches to a little stick, and there's going to be a big divot right there. You're going to see that in cats, in dogs, in dictycs, in gazelles, and all sorts of other beasties. So we come on down here. Everything here is moved by tendons that attach up here. So there are tendons that go all the way here, slide down here. That's why the bottom part of the leg, whoops, I'm going off the screen. Why the bottom part of the leg is so skinny. Little bit of a bulge right around the joint here. And then your toe bones stick down to your walking on your fingernails. So you will very often find on the inside of the leg here on a number of different animals. Here I'm looking at the outside of the leg of this, but on the inside of the leg of a lot of these animals, you'll very often find glands in here. So that's a good thing to look for. On the front side, I have this shoulder blade sticking up, and along the bottom part of the shoulder blade, right in there, connecting to a little spot right up here on the elbow. So notice that, again, on the foot here, you had this little arrangement like this, where you had the joint coming down like this. The joint was here, and there's a little heel bone sticking up. Look at this same sort of arrangement here in the front leg. I have my front leg sticking down, so this is my humerus sticking down, and I hit the radius and ulna. But it doesn't hit it at the end here. It hits it partway down. So there's a little nub sticking up. That's to attach. The longer you have this side out here, the stronger lever you'll have. Right? So this little bump here is to attach the muscles on. If you then contract a muscle between these two, it's going to move this leg. So what we're going to do is, there's the big muscle that goes between here and here is the triceps. And there is an inner head of it that is smaller and harder to see, but there are two large, very meaty parts of it. One that kind of comes from in here and attaches to that point, and the other up here. And so the result is that we have a big muscle, not as big as this, in here, and you often see that it is in two parts. You can see that in this photograph. This animal does have a bicep that sits in front here, but it is so small that it really is not really helping with our sculpting of that leg. So thinking of that triceps as your big thing. Then all the muscles of this foreleg here, the big part of those muscles are closer towards the body. You move them with tendons, so you can think of this part here as a little triangle going down, just the same way you have a little triangle over here.
Sorry, Jack, could you scooch it over a bit, please?
There we
There
go. So I've got a triangle here, bigger, 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 smaller, bigger, smaller. Okay. And then we go down to our straight. Toes stick out.
While we're talking about legs and hooves, we have a question about how they absorb shock while they're running.
Oh, this is a wonderful, wonderful question. So, first of all, notice that the back leg, again, is zigzag. The front leg is a post. Now, the back leg you get by taking this zigzag and extending it, you're going to push yourself forward. But notice that this front leg doesn't have a lot of bends in it, so you're not going to get a lot of pushing happening here. Back is big and muscular. Front is not nearly as much so. And also notice how straight this is. So if, also, this joint here, I'm going to move over to this, to my wildebeest skeleton here. Notice that this wildebeest thigh bone, or the femur, is coming up and it is connecting right here into a ball and socket joint in the hip. So any movement in this leg gets pushed directly into this hip bone. This little, unless this bone gets dislocated, is any movement in this part down here is going to be translated into forward movement in this wildebeest. The same with the little dik-dik. But the shoulder blade here is, let's look at this one. This shoulder blade is sitting on the side of the body. It's not like a primate shoulder blade like mine or yours. It is sitting not on the back. Your shoulder blades are on your back, but this is on the side of the body. So it's held on, not bone to bone like this. It's held on by tendons and ligaments that have strapped this onto the side of the body. So when you go, when you put pressure down, this can actually move a little bit. So this can, if you put pressure on, if it puts a lot of weight on this side, this can slide up a little bit. So it's got a little bit of give here on the side of the body, and that's the shock absorber. So this whole piece here, this whole leg, if you put weight on it, it can slide up a little bit. That's different than yours. Your shoulder blades are flat on your back. If you put weight on your legs, instead of your shoulder blade sliding, you are going to break your shoulder or break part of your arm. So if the if a human being falls and they put their arm out to break their fall, they will often hurt their shoulder or they will often break a bone. But as these run, what they're doing is they can lock their legs out straight and land the full weight on these front legs. The purpose of these front legs is the shock absorber. The back leg's job is power. The front leg's job is shock absorber.
Did you? Thank you.
So here's the power directly into the skeleton. This is your shock absorber. So for this, in animal after quadruped after quadruped after quadruped, you're going to see this general pattern. Here's my body. And let's just note for a second that if I put in the skin on this little dictic here, its skin is going to come across here.
Sorry, is there supposed to be skin?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm going to go to a different color. So the skin here, there's a little bit of chest muscles in here that stick out. Note that this knee is right up at body level. Some long-legged quadruped runners will hit this a little bit with some of the carnivores. We're going to see that some of the carnivores, you actually see the elbow and the knee down below the level of the body. But for all of these ungulates, what you see is from the body here, from the body, your back leg is going to come down and do this if it's a heavier body, or come down and do this if you're a little gazelle-like thing. So more bend. The lighter you are, the littler you are, the more bend. And the front leg is going to, notice that it is not coming from, it's not hanging down from here. So the front leg is not coming down here. So you're going to come back a little bit. So it's not coming down from here. You're going to go back a little bit, and your front leg is a post. So that can give you, that's your basic with that understanding, you're going to be able to, quickly be able to get down what those legs are doing. So let's notice another thing about this lovely little beastie. I'm going to put in a little head. The dictic has this little pokey nose. They're really adorable. Its little neck comes down in here. They have this skinny little neck. Why can they get away with a skinny little neck? Because they have a lightweight little head. And also notice just how across the back here, it's fairly flat. Why is this flat? What I want you to pick up here is that there are aspects of the biomechanics of this skeleton that help you memorize basic features that you would expect to see in a lot of animals. Here, I have a small, lightweight head.
How are you again, Jack?
Oh, I'm moving the wrong way.
That's okay. He's trying to run away.
Yeah, these are very flighty. They are most happy when they're kind of hidden in the foliage. So you'll see them briefly, and then they'll go like, oh, 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 oh. Okay. But this one is going to hang out for us a little bit more. But because it's such a small critter, I'm going to expect that its neck is not going to be too thick, and I'm going to expect that its back is flat. That its back is flat. That's really weird. Why am I going to expect that the back is flat? Well, that brings us over to our next friend here, the wildebeest. Right? And what I'm going to do is, let's just take a look at some wildebeest. Some wildebeest images. Oh, hello there, wildebeest. Wildebeest, hide, floating controls. Oh, there's a wildebeest. Ah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So again, this is just, you can go do a Google search, and wonderful images pop up for you. Let's take a look here at a little bit of biomechanics of this wildebeest, and it will help us understand what we're seeing here with this shape, and then how to draw it. Notice that in this case, I have a much bigger head than I had before. So if I put snout on my friend the wildebeest here, we have this lovely little snout that kind of sticks out. Not that far.
And so with the pigs here, because pigs can be more omnivorous than the pigs themselves are not ruminants, they have one stomach. They're monogastric. Then we have our hippo friends here, which are a little bit weird. They're what we would call pseudo-ruminants because they've got their three-chambered stomachs. And so the hippos, unlike some of the others that we're looking at here, are not cud chewers. They do have their foregut fermentation, but they are not cud chewers. Whereas many of the others, when we talk about ruminants, we talk about how they'll eat the grasses very, very fast because they don't have time to sit around and eat slowly, mostly because of predators and whatnot. So they get it all in fast with the cellulose, and then it goes into, as Jack was talking about, the bacteria stomach rumen, the first one. Then before it goes into the second one, it comes back up, they chew their cud for a bit, and then it goes through stomachs 2, 3, and 4, or rather the chambers 2, 3, and 4. And so that's what we're talking about when we're mentioning, like, I want to say, I think deer are ruminants, are they? I definitely read about giraffes being oh, Jack is back. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I was getting all into this discussion of suspension bridges and heads and things. I don't know where my computer decided to die on me. Then I looked up and my screen was black, and I'm like, oh no. What was I talking about when I disappeared?
You were talking about wildebeests, and you had just drawn some kind of, I think it was a ligament.
Oh, the nuchal ligament on the back of the head.
Yeah, I think so. It was a little blue dot.
But I never got into the Golden Gate Bridge.
No, we didn't talk about it.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get let's go to construction land. This is fun. Let me see here. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share this desktop. I'm going to turn off that. And I'm going to hide floating video panel and the floating media panels. All right. So this is this other kind of bit of just structure that is wonderfully elegant. So there's this nuchal ligament that goes along the back of the neck here. And from that, there are these pieces that come down and attach to the neck at different spots. And what this is here is my little drawing of my Golden Gate Bridge. It's the same thing as in a, it's the same thing that you would see in a suspension bridge. In a suspension bridge, there's a tower, and then you have a cable that comes down from that, right? So the cable that comes down from that, you can then drop pieces to hold on. That cable allows you to, if it's anchored here and has a tower, you can hold up all this weight with it. So here is your tower. The reason that the diptych doesn't have a tower is because it has a little head, and it is small. But as the whole body gets bigger, and then you make the head proportionately larger, you need a suspension bridge going up. So these processes on the back of the thoracic vertebrae stick up, and those are the towers on the suspension bridge. So expect critters with bigger heads to start to get proportionately bigger humps on their backs. And what's kind of confusing about that is that over here on the dik-dik, if you kind of follow down its spine here, notice that the spine is going along pretty close to the edge of the body. But not on this species. Oh no, its spine is coming down way down here inside. And so all of this big bump here, that's all the tower on the suspension bridge. So bigger heads, I'm going to expect them to have a bigger bump on the back. Now, here we're looking at muscles. Here, let's just look at general body groups. See if I can. There we are. So I'm going to simplify a little bit of this skeleton over here. I'm going to take this whole mass of muscles on the shoulder and the upper arm and the chest muscles here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a box here. I'm going to use red in this. So I'm going to come up here sort of flat across the top, down to this elbow here, and up like that. I'm going to build a little keystone right in here. And so this is an area of muscles and bone sticking up that is, I can simplify it to kind of a little geometric shape. And it's going to help me be able to visualize these shapes as I'm drawing my animal. On the hips, it's also a keystone shape. I'm going to go from the back of the hips here to the knee, down across the knee, like that. And that kind of helps me sort of think about sort of simplifying all of these masses of muscles. So built into that is the triceps hiding in here, this column coming up, all the muscles that are wrapped around the chest and the arm here. In between those is a mass of the body, and what you're going to very often see is that coming in, and then as it gets close to the hips, sort of tipping up. So there's my body. That is a useful way of simplifying the shapes and masses of a critter. If I were to, hold on a moment, I'm going to see if I can draw on that wildebeest. Screen went blank for a minute. And all right. I am going to draw escape. There we go. Annotate. Draw. So if I were to draw those over this wildebeest, what I'm thinking about is this mass of my hips in here. I'm thinking of this as that shape in the foreground, in the front, and then again the belly, you'll have you'll see that tipping up in here. That is a useful way of, in the field, simplifying these shapes. And then the lower legs come down. Here's that little triangle, here's that little triangle, and then straight below those. So on my wildebeest friend here, it has a thick neck, and it has bump over its back, hips that come down.
Oh, Jack, you might want to zoom out just a little.
Zoom out. That's a great idea. Bigger, skinnier, little bulge, poof. Skinnier, little bulge, poof. I think I need to, on my little skeleton diagram, make it a little bit wider. Someone can do that. But if I have this sort of general model and know how it relates to a beast who's walking around out there, it allows me to be able to much more kind of quickly get the shape that I'm seeing onto my piece of paper. Let's just look at how I might quickly get something like this beastie down. What I'm going to do, my approach, is to start just with the line along the back. So it's flatter towards the back, the upper part is kind of up a little bit. And then I think to myself, if that's the upper part, I've got body that is roughly coming down in here. You notice this is all loose, it is sketchy, it is light. And then I think if my body's about this big, how far down is the ground? Is it down here? Is it up here? Wiener dog, right? So if my body's about this thick, my ground is going to be maybe like that. So I've then established the rough length of my legs. I then like to kind of think about the negative shape underneath the legs. So I'm going to go from, there's a shape that kind of comes in here, tucks up in here, and I have a leg that is coming down here. So I will put in that negative shape from my legs. A little bit of body that sticks out in front. Whoa. My screen just went blank. Did yours go blank?
It looked as though a video suddenly popped up on your screen. Oh, I can still see your the pen from Zoom.
Let's see. I am going to clear. I am going to
now we can see the videos.
There you go.
Which way?
Good. So things to things that I think are particularly kind of difficult about the next steps. This is I want to get my head in here, but I don't want to give myself too long a neck. It's really easy to give yourself too long a neck or to make the neck too high. So something that I like to do is to look at, if this is the height of my back, if this is the height of my back here, how high is that head? So it's a little bit higher, right, but not too. And how far forward do I make it? Well, so that's where kind of think about a negative shape in here is useful. This is sort of a negative shape in here. I want to bring it roughly up about this, maybe make a head in here. And that's going to, then I've got a head that's loosely in here. I'm going to give it a little bit of a bump over its shoulders. Another neat place to look is right here on the rump. Very often where you get up to this point here, that little point of the hip, that will make a little bump. And from there, you'll get a slope, an angle down. So very often critters will have very kind of muscular back sides. On ungulates, this joint here, the heel, is usually around halfway down. But you're going to see when we get to drawing carnivores that all changes. So, but for these guys, so these joints are about at the same height. And then on these guys, they also have these wonderful hairs that stick out, kind of gives the wildebeest a beard on the top and the bottom. The top one sometimes just flops over, sometimes it sticks up. Up here in the hips, have muscles in here. I'm going to have up here here. And that is just sort of a general kind of quick translation of some of these sorts of forms and ideas to the shapes that we're seeing. I already spent a little bit of time in a previous workshop on our friend the hippopotamus. So I think I'm going to not hippo us today. But what I would like to do is a little bit of special love with the African buffalo. So this is, remember Kate was talking about how heavy these beasties are. They're massive, stocky, chunky things. You look at that, you don't think it's going to be able to outrun you, but it easily can. These are beasties that are responsible for lots of deaths of tourists because we think cow, and it is an extremely powerful wild animal. And what looks like just a whole bunch of static rumination, it is going to, these things, when they get moving, are really, really impressive animals. I'm going to take this little image here of a male. It's a little bit blurry. And use that to kind of help us flesh out this little drawing here, this skeleton here. Notice on this one that the head here is really, really big. These things have a really massive, massive head. And for that, they need a lot of that nuchal ligament support. So there's a nuchal ligament that goes back here. On a on a male, the heads are bigger and the necks are thicker. So the male has this bonus massive muscle here, trapezius muscle, that is going to go across the back here. It gives you then this sort of extra bump look. So they have a much bigger bump. The hip bone sticks up, so you have a very angular rump. And the body doesn't tuck in just down here. The belly of this thing is going to be lower. And its pectoral muscles fill up the rest of this little box here. So you think of this boxing out here. You're going to find the same sort of patterns in the back legs where we go down apart. So for on these beasties, what we just want to think of is this extra mass of muscle up here on the back. The female is going to kind of follow the contour of the nuchal ligament a little bit more, but the male, you're going to get this sort of extra sort of muscle bump right up there. It's a very thick neck. And if you're adding the muscles in on the body, I would expect there to be a big muscle in here. And I'm going to have a big muscle, not as big as in the back. So we're drooping our body wall down below that rib cage. Gives you more room for digestion in there. And it gives you this sort of this sense of this very thick, massive, powerful creature. Something that is kind of a fun thing to notice is just in all of these photographs, look at how many of them, there's very few where you're sort of seeing this profile view. Look at how many of these African buffalo are pointing towards the photographer. Isn't that interesting? And what you're seeing there is, something like a wildebeest that's a little bit less sure of itself might turn itself more sideways to you or put its back more towards you because it's trying to figure out if it needs to run away from you. But the African buffaloes, they're just so big and confident. Nobody messes with them. They'll chase off a lion, especially if they're in a group. And so they will, they'll come out and challenge you. So you'll often have a look at them from a view where you're seeing them from the front. So here's a female, so not as big a bump up there. Just want to here is these sections in my little Cape Buffalo again. And then what I do, if I'm looking at this beastie and it's coming towards me or looking towards me, I think of this as an oval mass, this as an oval mass, and this as an oval mass. So I have this 1, 2, 3 body sections. So if it's looking towards me, I've got 1 body mass. I have the next body mass sticking out behind that, and perhaps I see a little bit of the hips sticking out behind that. And remember how this shape has this little angle down here. I want to think of especially this front one as this box. And then I have body sticking out behind that and hips sticking out behind that. Now, from the bottom corner of the box, that's where my legs are going to come out. Well, look at the negative shape between those legs, this little shape in here, so your legs don't end up too far apart. Back leg coming down here. And along this seam here, that is where the neck is going to attach. In here. So my neck and head on this, you see. This one is down. It's got its head down and it's looking towards me. Saying, you want a piece of this? I don't think so. All right. So it's got a big head in there. Huge ears sticking out beside that. So those would be some thoughts about sketching and drawing our friends, the Artiodactyls. It's a really diverse group. This is the ones where you get into, something that's really fun to do is to look at variations in horns on these beasties, and a future workshop at some point we'll do a whole workshop on drawing horns, but that's not today because it's getting close to lunchtime. I hope that this was useful, giving you some strategies of thinking about not just how to draw them, but about how the size of these things is going to make predictable changes in their body forms, so that when we're looking at them, we can pick up those changes and be able to draw what we see. Something it's useful to have a general framework in your head of how these different pieces fit together. A schemata of the anatomy of these beasties and how that is going to scale. And if you have this general schemata in your head, then when you're looking at it, the idea is not just to draw the framework that you have in your head. The idea is to have this structure in your head, and then you can always look at the critter, and if it is not doing what you expect it to be doing, then your brain will often pick up on this. You'll go like, oh, that's weird. There's something that feels weird and off about this. And then it's an opportunity to update and change your schemata. So I hope that this was helpful in getting your Artiodactyl schemata working for you today. Thank you so much for being here. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. That was professional level Zoom meeting sneezing. I managed to mute myself and get off screen for your comfort. First, I wanted to see if there are any questions that people had about these this workshop, ungulates, and any of these drawing ideas. If there's an idea that you particularly like that you want to incorporate into your game, and it's often useful just to sort of share that with other people. By doing so, you reinforce that in your brain. And let's start with that. If there's anybody that has thoughts, comments, or ideas to share, please raise your paw.
There is a question in the chat. I'm not sure if she might not feel comfortable being on the screen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a question about whether wildebeest kicking is for weight balance, the way that wildebeest will kind of kick as they run.
That's a really good question. I don't know. I would be way into wild speculation without data, but I like that that possibility. It's fun to think of. Is it for weight distribution? Is it so? Is it something that is required by the sort of strange physiology that they have of, you know, like big bump, long face? Is it something? Or is it a anti-predator behavioral thing? Is it a kind of interspecies display? I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. So let's actually just open this up to anybody who has something, a thought or idea you wanted to share. If you've got a journal page that you've been working on that you wanted to show folks, you can do so. if you have a any other sort of thoughts on nature journaling, critical thinking, or the or declassified CIA documents, you feel free to just raise your hand. We'll see that you've got something to share, and we will put you into the conversation. So while we're waiting for that, oh, hey, Ray Bonto's got something to share. But first let me say, so my challenge for you folks is to, in the next week, is just to do a Google image search and draw a bunch of ungulates and play with those and see if you, originally it might be easier just to do them in side view and then start kind of playing with them in 3/4 view. Fill up at least four pages with little sketches of ungulates. Doesn't have to be finished drawings, but get a lot of ungulate miles going and look at different ones. And I think you'll find that that helps a lot of these ideas start to gel a little bit more. Let's first jump over to the UK and join Ray Bonto and Arpan. I'm going to add you into the spotlight, and you can now unmute. It's good to have you with us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So that's good.
Yes, yes, very, very strong work.
Oh,
I like it's cool the way the blue pencil and the red pencil work together. You really kind of get the feeling of muscles and tendons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the little dik-dik's legs are just, I mean, you just see this whole spring mechanism, whole angle. Nice.
That's the wildebeest.
Yeah. Nice wildebeest proportions.
Oh no, roughly. Yeah.
Oh, and then there's our Cape buffalo. Oh, kind of very reminiscent of the sauropod that you have down below. Those big, just like the large sauropod, you have, the heavier you get, the less bend that you can have in your limbs. That's really cool. Otherwise, you have to be doing like a push-up all the time. Like, this is killing me. So little lightweight things can do get away with this bent leg thing. But the heavier you get, the more you have to just lock out your limb and go like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. My dad has to force me to show these.
Oh, yay! Oh, that's so much fun. And I like the person down there for scale. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, and you've even got feather-like texture on the head of that one.
No, those are Artiodactyls.
I love it.
And one more.
Oh, that's cool. I've got something to show you, Ray Bonto. I was thinking of you close to New Year's.
Oh my God.
So
Amazing.
I went to the American Museum of Natural History, and they had this spectacular Tyrannosaurus. And I thought, like, Ray Bonto, this would be totally your jam. And so I just sort of sat there, kind of playing around with that little guy, and I thought of you. And it's funny, you had that one with a little figure of humans for scale, and these guys down here too.
Yeah, and it's also very funny. That's Tyrannosaurus, and this one happens to be Tyrannotitan.
Tyrannotitan.
Well, it's just a name that says it's bigger than T-Rex.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, there's so many new finds. Dinosaurs have gotten so much more interesting than when I was a kid. Dinosaurs, there's all this stuff that came out of China. Just, oh,
Oh
man.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
Oh, so yeah, that's really fun. That's really fun.
There was a dinosaur that was found in India, the Tigorosaurus,
Yeah,
and that's actually
Barapasaurus.
Barapasaurus, right? So that's kept in the Indian Statistical Museum, and which is very in my city, but we did not get chance to go
Because
there
it was close to the public.
because the museum itself is closed to the public. You have to get special permission because they are doing some kind of research on there. But in actual reality, it's just in ruins actually. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So
Not
behind the scenes, is the specimen not being taken care of, or is the whole museum just kind of falling apart?
specimen. Specimen.
Oh, that's really too bad. What did it? What do they think it looked like?
Barapasaurus is no mystery.
How did it look like? Was it a sauropod?
Yeah, it was a sauropod, but it looked a bit like, say, Brontosaurus, but it was a bit smaller, and it had a bigger head.
Oh, fun. Yeah. I remember I grew up with Brontosaurus, and then for a while,
It
they,
it didn't exist.
we lost Brontosaurus because they
It seemed to be a
we
species
had the one of the Brontosaurus that we were looking at was a Brontosaurus body with an Apatosaurus head stuck on the end.
Yeah.
Oops. But but now Brontosaurus is back. That they were able to find, that this
Yeah.
actually is a legit thing, different than Apatosaurus. That's fun. They thought it was just a Camarasaurus body with an Apatosaurus head, but
There was also an Apatosaurus body with a Camarasaurus head.
Camarasaurus.
Which was-
Okay, there you go. Yeah. And so it's nice to have Brontosaurus back on deck.
Yeah.
That's fun. When I was at the American Museum, there was this one sauropod that they had there. So, by the way, folks, sauropods are those big things that kind of look like kind of Brontosaurus body shape. They're like big columnar legs, long tail, long neck, little head, kind of looking around. And they had this one. It was the largest articulated sauropod that I've seen. So it was in this huge room, and its tail was wrapping around the wall, and then its neck went down and out the door to the gallery, into the hallway outside the gallery. It had such a long neck that they had to. So you're walking down the hallway and you're looking up ahead, like, I wonder where the dinosaur skeletons are. And there's this one room with this giant neck sticking out of it, a little head on the end of it. So it's like, I gotta go check that out. It was so massive, biggest one that I've ever seen articulated.
What was it?
I don't remember. It was a whopper.
Diplodocus? Hello?
Yeah. It was really fun.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made some notes
Yeah,
also.
it could be a Titanosaurus.
Oh, yeah. Let's check this out. I'm gonna minimize my screen here. Oh, yes. Looking at the body segments like that, I think really helps me be able to kind of get it down on my paper. I like the way you're doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, fun. Well, good to see you both.
Good to see you,
Thanks.
Jack. Good to have you back.
Right.
Oh, it's good to be back here. Um, so yeah, thank you for sharing those.
Thank you.
Let's join our Perissodactyl writer, Kate Chandler. Hello there, Kate.
Well, hello again. So I had a few things to show you. Mostly, well, first I want to show you my stack of sketchbooks from the year, almost complete stack. This is a year's worth of pencil miles.
Oh, this is what it looks like.
Isn't that kind of fun?
That is cool. That is cool. You know what? Hey, Avea, would you be able to get your pencil mile stack also for the year?
Okay.
I think it'd be fun just for just folks to see that it really makes a difference. Just draw it and 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 draw it. And the thing that gets in our way the most of doing that is that part of our head that says this needs to be it needs to be perfect, it needs to be a pretty picture, and then that slows us down. So I'm going to come on here with a little quote. This is from a philosopher of nature journaling, and the quote is, "The trouble isn't making mistakes. The trouble is the pressure not to make mistakes." Right? But if you let that go, that's a quote from Avea Moore. So if you let that go, it just opens up the door to more and more and more and more things. That's so cool to see. Good job, you guys.
Yeah. So that's fun. And heavy. Let's see what else I want to show you. So I, kind of say New Year's resolutions, not really that, but more sort of intention for the year. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, my friend Parker and I are endeavoring on a field guide making quest for the Francis Marion National Park, or National Forest. And so we're going by it'd be genus by genus. Maybe like that. Anyways, we're starting off with salamanders, and so I've been furiously trying to perfect drawing salamanders to the best of my ability.
Oh.
And it's really fun working with a biologist, because the whole process for drawing this, sketching it out and everything, I would sketch something, I'd send a picture to Parker and go, "Does it look right?" And I get a text back that would say something like, "Reduce chunk by about 25%.
Reduce chunk.
But that's really fun, because I'm so used to working off reference photos and having someone who is intimately familiar with handling these animals all the time and knows what the distinctive features are. These things, they look kind of like a brown blobby eel thing in almost every picture in iNaturalist and everywhere else. And so being able to draw in tandem with someone who knows what they look like. And so my goal is here to be able to go out at some point and go spend some time with Parker and all of his critters.
Oh, this is so much fun.
The lion salamander, I think I've drawn so many lion salamanders and I can't quite get them right. So that is an ongoing process to capture the lion salamander.
This is a great mission. What fun patterns
it's
on
too
that.
fun. But it's kind of fun because this is the first drawing I did of I think it's the Amphuma. And I didn't realize that it had little back feet too. I thought the two-toed thing meant it had two little toe nubbins on its front flippers. Turns out they don't. They just have this weird little armlet thing that sticks out and they kind of wiggle.
Let's see the two side by side. Oh yeah. And also I love the way you use the contours. You really show with those those lines around the body, you really kind of get a sense of the thickness of the body.
Yeah, well, those costal grooves are really helpful for outlining that. Yeah, I mean, they're
That's
tricky to draw, and I've been really struggling to kind of get my contrast in with watercolor and do those values really well. Especially when I'm trying to like create something that's like recognizably sort of true to color. And then also like pop in the contrast, and that has been a big challenge.
oh, that it just these just look like they're wet and slimy.
That's the idea, except for the ones that are perpetually underwater. So you see that one. There's another one of the many lined. I need to talk to Parker more about that one because we have very sort of different ideas about what many lines should look like. So I see pictures, and then he's like, it needs more lines here and here, and the communication is a little bit off, but we'll figure it out eventually.
But it's not, if you've ever done the activity where you sit back to back with somebody and somebody has an object in their hand or a photograph and they describe it to the other person and the other person tries to draw what the other person is describing, you realize that as we describe pictures, it becomes very, very confusing. And you can get totally different things. Oh, wow.
And so this is just a cheap little watercolor book that I got just to do practice stuff in, because I'm trying to just really master my watercolors and make them work for me. And as I think probably everyone here knows, watercolors are tricky.
Yeah.
And getting to that sort of next level of proficiency is very difficult.
Oh,
So
what?
that's kind of all I've got since I've last seen you guys. But yeah, kind of just plugging away, trying to really kind of improve the foundational stuff, like values, and really learning to do perspective well, and just all kinds of like really basic stuff that lifts your art to another level. So yeah.
Oh, that is so exciting to see. Wow. Okay, Kate, I'm delighted. I am absolutely delighted. And this, can I bring you on, Avea? Your comments about this sort of collaboration with the scientist, I thought were really, really important. What were your thoughts on that?
Just that I really, really appreciate that you and Parker are working together on that, because doing that together makes it so much stronger. Sometimes you'll be illustrating something that may inspire him a question that he didn't think about before. Or he'll say something scientific and you'll be like, oh, that makes me understand the anatomy of this so much better. But the fact that
So much.
and the fact that you two are doing this together, and that you'll be able to, like, that way you'll have different communities who will be able to find out about this work that you're doing together, and you'll be able to spread your work to each of those communities. And because he inhabits the herps community and you are into science illustration, it's a way of uniting those two communities. So it's really exciting to hear about your collaboration, and I hope you'll share when your publications are ready so we can support you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the hope with that is not only give people a way to identify stuff, but also kind of hopefully know how to interact with it. Because I mean, amphibians have been taking a big hit with habitat loss, climate change, all kinds of fun stuff.
Chytrid.
Huh?
The chytrid fungus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So kind of the hope would be to be able to put those in spots in like the South Carolina area where people could use those to help engage with nature. And hopefully I really like to do like an expanded thing where, from there we do reptiles, and because of South Carolina, we probably need a couple different sections for that. But yeah.
I liked that. Sorry.
No, please.
I liked that when you and Parker were doing your program on that Sunday, that you made it a point to mention herp safety and interacting with them ethically and minding their habitats. So I appreciate that is part of the thing that you want to make people aware of. And hopefully with the reptiles, part of that will be that you put in a note that says, do not boop the snoot.
I will, just for you. It will explicitly say that. I mean, that's become one of the catchphrases, hasn't it?
It really. Oh,
It's
also before I get out of the way, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
When was your birthday?
The 27th.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. Yeah, and something that I also love to point out is that so doing a collaboration with a scientist like this is an amazing way to learn more. The the thing on our end as illustrators that makes it successful and that you must be doing in order to have that many versions of that line salamander is that we check our ego at the door and we look at it as this opportunity to learn and to learn and to learn and to learn, as opposed to, like, ta-da, here's my artwork, don't you like it?
Yeah.
Is you have to look at, like, okay, I did this, where is it inaccurate? And how can I make this better? When I was working on my Sierra Nevada field guide, I would bring my drawings around to different scientists and have them, but you really have to, at the start, they would kind of look at it and go like, oh, these are lovely, these are really nice, these are really nice. And you're like, no, that's not the feedback that I'm wanting. Right? I want what needs to change, what's wrong, what doesn't feel like the gestalt of it, or where there are things that are wrong. And
Yeah.
if you can get them to give you that kind of feedback, you're going to get better and better and better and better and better and better and better, rather than, Ivea is saying feedback is love.
Yeah, well, that was my thought, and one of the things I'm trying to do is like make sure that when I present a drawing to Parker, hang on, little cat, you stop that right now. Sorry.
Yeah, we can't have that kind of behavior.
We cannot have that kind of behavior. Well, what I was gonna say is that I try little things like, oh, this is a draft of this. What do you think for the next one? Trying to like keep in the process of, like, usually what I'll do is I'll make a bunch of little studies and I'll go, which ones have elements that you like, and I'll make notes all over that and try and get more info. I just don't want him to feel like he has to look at me like, oh, that's really good, and then not add that stuff in there. So yeah, I would recommend that experience to anyone. It's been really fulfilling work, and it's kind of made me realize that, like, I love doing the science illustration. I could definitely see that being more of a career than anything else, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make that into the main thing I do. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, there was a bird watcher named Joe Moreland who lived a little bit south of where I do, and I brought all my drawings down to this guy. And once he really understood that I really did want these to be accurate, he would sit down with each one and say, just this incredibly laser-like hardcore birder, like, the tarsus on this one is too long. This one here, you have it in a fluffed up position. They tend not to do that. Whatever it was, like this position here, it's, nice details, shame about the posture, right? And like this beak is just, just feels a little bit too, like, you're talking, sometimes it was like that language you're describing, like chunky, right? And I kept a list of
silly.
What?
I said you have to keep it silly, because if he says reduce the toe nubbins,
reduce
I
those
know
toe
exactly
nubbins.
what that means. I mean, of course, use scientific language too, but like, I feel like if you can sort of make it a little bit silly and goofy, that definitely helps take the stress out of like criticism.
Yeah. So yeah, keeping your sense of humor. How can we kind of not take ourselves so seriously that we can still take constructive feedback and welcome it, and to be living our lives in a way that other people feel comfortable giving us that kind of feedback? Because if they don't want to hurt your feelings, then you don't get any of that feedback. That's good. But I like your keep it you're calling them drafts is also really powerful. Instead of
Oh,
like,
yeah, we've got
and
notebook
here's my
rows.
finished presentation to you, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, what do you think of this draft? That takes humility.
And the other thing is, when I'm making things like that, I will intentionally create things that kind of give me a sense of it. Like this was working on the Anthula. I mean, like this clearly isn't the finished product. I can make something like this and go, okay, this is like a study. What do you think? Or a study or a draft or anything like that. And it kind of helps make people more comfortable, makes me more comfortable with all that. Because I mean, these are just little
Yeah.
scribbly half sketch things. Like these are definitely not done, but they kind of give me a sense of like, what are these animals like? And you know, I just do tons of little studies and stuff, trying to get the shapes of salamanders and just get really comfortable with them. And I'm still not there yet, because I think what I need to do is I'm gonna go to the Marine Life Center and I'm gonna go run around and turn over some logs. I think it's still a little bit early for us up here, but I'm hoping maybe I will. Oh wait, we have a salamander in the house. Huh. I forgot that we have a pet salamander. He's not my pet, so I have not been neglecting him, but
Oh, this is cool. This sort of this is your visualization. It's neat to see you thinking about the
yeah.
position. On this one, you have that back little limb at
and
the
you can
corner.
see there's little notes and stuff about, you know, where it should be and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then there's another copy, it's actually on the transfer paper, which I ended up throwing out the transfer paper, where I copied it again and then made some slight modifications, and then transferred it onto painting. Yeah, I mean, I just have tons of these little draft things. I feel like for drawing anything, you have to get really comfortable with it. And I mean, that process is long and difficult.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that is so cool. And what you're saying is you want to go out and find the living things. Oh, good kitty. Finding the living things is so
yeah.
important. I'll show you kind of what happens if you don't.
Well, it's definitely been my problem lately, and I've realized that I have been drawing from reference photos a lot because I'm trying to work it in around everything. And today I have time where it's like, you're going to go to the Marine Life Center and you're going to draw things out, you know, that are alive and all that.
So when I was working on this book, which is, you know, the field guide to plants and bugs and birds and all these sorts of things. So the spiders, I took this class on spiders of the Sierra Nevada. I was taught at the Sierra Nevada Field Station, and there. So here are all these drawings of spiders, and let me just zoom in on this a little bit because. Let's see if we can focus it. Because a whole bunch of these look like dead spiders because they are.
Yeah.
So there's a few that are like I'm a live spider in a cool position, but like the leg positions on this one, like this one here. This is, I look at these legs and like, you are such a dead spider, right? And on some of them, I got it, but these were drawn from specimens that were preserved in alcohol, and like, look at this thing, this hammock spider. That is the position that it is in when it's dead, right? And it was, that was, now I look back on it and I could see that. So your strategy of going out and making sure that you have time with the real thing from life. These yellow garden spiders are in a lifelike position. They do this cool thing with their legs like that. But a bunch of them aren't. And so I just wanted to, I thought that that would be a kind of an interesting little data point there. What happens when you don't spend time with the real thing? You end up looking just a little bit dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry, I just saw your friend. Yeah. No, so I'm trying to do that, try and do more work with like live specimens and everything like that instead of
That's
the very
great.
sterile photos and everything.
Like, yeah, and find live ones, like, and just look at like how do you hold your legs when you're kind of like hanging out, like just kind
Yeah.
of being a cool little salamander. Otherwise, we just sort of, yeah, that's great. So yeah, the photographs from life, those are useful. The specimen, you can see like, oh, your little kind of costal groove kind of comes up here and then it does this. But then having the live beastie in front of you, you get just such a different sense. That's cool. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'd really like to be able to go down to South Carolina, hang out with Parker, and just fill up a notebook with as many of the species as possible and take notes on. Do not scratch my saddle pad. Sorry, little cat needs a walk.
The cat needs a walk. Okay, we're gonna let you take your cat for a walk.
I will soon, but yeah, I mean, just taking notes on what things are like. Yeah, you get it. Okay.
That's cool. That is so cool. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that. That's inspiring.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to bring the mad botanist back down here. Come on down. Avea, Happy New Year. It is really good to see you again. I wanted to thank you again for all the work that you've been doing to help make these workshops happen. And I'm really delighted to be doing this enterprise with you. Folks should also know that Vey has been doing all the behind-the-scenes work to prep these videos for the web, and it takes a lot of time, and really grateful for you then making that accessible to a whole bunch of other people.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Do you have any anything you wanted to share or last thoughts for the community?
So many thoughts. I was recently having a week of Kwanzaa celebrations with some friends, and we were looking at the different aspects of community because that's what the Kwanzaa is about. And I'm just proud to say that I see all of those aspects here in our nature journaling community, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Expect a lot more about accessibility coming up in the future. We're starting a group about that as well. Just expect a lot of excitement in 2023, but also note that it's excitement that you yourselves, take care, Rebonto. Note that it's excitement that you yourselves can create as well. For folks here, I know we have so many teachers, so many people with questions, so many people who maybe haven't taught yet, but have something to teach. So you can be folks who create this excitement as well, which I'm really excited about. Also, there's going to be some more traveling journals sent out really soon. I'm almost finished with one of them. I'm creating one about climate change stories, but the idea is also to share hope and not just fear. So that should be going out at some point. And I'll try to create the best sign-up system for that. Yeah, I've got a lot of projects. Sorry. So I'm sorry if I'm slow about videos and stuff. It's just that I've got a lot of.
No. These are all good things to do.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, and thank you. So everybody and Avea, Happy New Year to you all. Thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you all again here and in other events around our community.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.